Hello, it's André. We're in Belfast. I'm here with Ellie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Ellie Wildbore. I'm somebody with lived experience of complex emotional needs, and I also work in the NHS as a lived experience research ambassador as well.
Fantastic. So a lived experience person, it's kind of like a weird phrase, isn't it? But it's sort of part of the NHS now. So how did you get into that? What does it mean to you to be somebody who works with this lived experience hat on?
Yeah, so actually, ironically, it was coming to BIGSPD for the first time that landed me in the position where I ended up getting the role that I have in the NHS. So I was encouraged to come to BIGSPD in 2018 by the consultant psychologist from the Acorn therapeutic community, which I was an inpatient on, and I was encouraged to bring a little research poster that I did, and I came along very reluctantly thinking, well, no one's going to hear what I've got to say because I'm not a professional, I don't have any qualifications or anything, and to my great surprise I got the highly commended prize for my poster, and then things just went from there, and things kind of snowballed, and I ended up in the position where this role came up in my local NHS trust for lived experience research ambassador, and I applied for it and I got it mostly off the back of the stuff that I started doing through BIGSPD. So BIGSPD was a big part in me getting that lived experience practitioner sort of title.
And it feels like a conference that has a lot of people with that as their main kind of role at the event. I think it's like 20% of the people who are here are lived experience people, alongside all sorts of different clinicians and practitioners and researchers. Now you've been a few times, what does it mean to you? How does it feel as an event?
We were just having this conversation earlier about this being like kind of the highlight of the year. Like most work conferences, I'm like, it's another conference. But this one, it's like, yeah, it's a chance to network. It's a chance to really feel like it's a conference where I really feel like lived experience is kind of held in like the same sort of esteem as professional or academic experience. And I actually find myself quite frustrated in other contexts where that's maybe not the case. But coming here each year and kind of, I guess, getting that empowerment, I'm sure I don't just speak for myself when I say I go back to my own day-to-day working life, and the kind of camaraderie, I guess, it helps me go ahead and kind of advocate for this happening more in the NHS, which is a difficult place to create change, and lived experience practitioners are very much going against the grain of what the NHS is, but it feels like it's kind of like a safety blanket, I guess. It's really good to be able to connect with other people who've maybe trodden that path before or had some ups, downs or whatever, and we can all kind of share that, and it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's something I think about academic knowledge and scientific knowledge, and maybe historically we thought of lived experience as another type of evidence, another type of knowledge, but it's not the same as academic or scientific. But it feels like BIGSPD as an organisation, and maybe mental health science in general, is kind of recognising that lived experience is a really essential part of science, of all of our knowledge. Yeah, say something about that for us.
Yeah, I think things are really changing. I've been in the work I'm doing for about 6 years now. I was one of the first with a role like mine in the UK, so we really were coming from nothing within the NHS, sort of having lived experience meaning as much as academic experience in research. And we've really come a long way, and that's really, really good to see. When I first started, it was like the only sort of bit where lived experience could be in research was like, oh, we'll get a public and patient engagement group, and we'll come to them with our ideas that we've already decided and that we've already put in the grant application, and we'll just tick that box. That was very much what it was. And now we're in the place where in my trust, we are currently training up a set of lived experience research interviewers to go in and do the research interviews. And that's something that the academic team were really anxious about. They had a lot of anxieties about doing that. But actually, not only am I seeing the people with lived experience like having opportunity, realising that they have got things to give and they've got something they can do with what's happened to them in their lives, but also seeing the academic team change their opinions and realise the value that you get from having a lived experience sort of involvement embedded in research. And it's really nice to see senior management in our organisation putting the money where the mouth is sort of thing, and being willing to like back that like financially and stuff. That's really good. So yeah, it's really nice to see how far it's coming, but we've still got a long way to go.
Why is research better when it's led by people with lived experience?
Because we're researching what the people with lived experience need us to research, and we're doing it in a way that is most appropriate for them, that is getting the best ideas out of them. For example, and how disconnected sometimes research can be from reality. I work in a project that was involving some activity monitors for people with severe mental illness, because we were tracking physical activity. I mentioned that this might not be the best idea for people with severe mental illness. They maybe have psychosis, they maybe have mania. There's lots of issues with having a monitoring device, and it was something that the academic team hadn't thought about. They'd thought, well, they can just put it on the wrist and forget about it. But actually that's going to cause quite a lot of concern for someone with psychosis who's worried about monitoring, and bringing that in meant that we could discuss that earlier on in the project, rather than having put that in the application, spent loads on these monitors that weren't going to be able to be used. We can have those conversations earlier on. So I think I hear people say, oh, co-production takes a lot of time, it's very messy, all of those sort of things. And yes, there is an element of that, but actually, ultimately, we can save time by doing co-production right from the very beginning. We're doing it right from the start instead of having to go back in and change stuff. Yeah, so it benefits everybody. And I think also when we're using people with lived experience to deliver the research, you're getting a real rich set of information that you wouldn't get in the same way with an academic or a clinician talking to someone. We want to talk with someone who understands where we're coming from, and the answers you get are quite considerably different.